Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely bypass those $20 Venti Grande lattes and those endless morning drive-thru lines. Instead, we're exploring the traditional and frankly kind of lost art of brewing perfectly smooth cowboy coffee. We're taking a deep dive into a method that's literally fueled generations and communities and somehow managed to do the whole shebang with just water, heat, and coffee grounds. Think about the modern problem we all face pretty much every single morning. You just want that perfect cup to kickstart your day, right? But nowadays, the coffee experience usually means paying absolutely exorbitant prices, standing in ridiculous lines, and walking away with some complicated, overly roasted drink that'll probably give you indigestion or heartburn by 3 p.m. Listen, it really doesn't have to be this way. The contrast here is honestly pretty stark. On one hand, you've got our modern coffee culture, which is expensive, sometimes aggressively acidic, and just highly complex. But on the flip side, we have the rustic, old-school simplicity of cowboy coffee. Just imagine boiling water in a seasoned pot down by the creek, or, right on your own kitchen stove. It's cheap, it's remarkably simple, and when you do it right, it is flawlessly smooth. Now, here's a fascinating little health benefit you probably wouldn't expect. As our source points out, pretty hilariously, I might add, when you make cowboy coffee the right way, you're actively extracting the bitterness. And what does that mean for you? It means absolutely zero acid reflux, no nasty heartburn, and as the old saying goes, you won't even belch out loud at church no more. Seriously though, it is incredibly gentle on the stomach. Okay, moving right along to section 1, gear and golden ratios. Let's cover the absolute basics of brewing. So the absolutely crucial point here is your equipment. You have got to treat the inside of your coffee pot exactly like you would a cast iron skillet. That means you need to season it, and you must never, ever wash it with soap and water. Just don't do it. Now, if you're out hunting for an authentic vintage pot at an antique store, be sure to take it outside and hold it right up to the sun. You're looking for tiny rust pinholes. And don't even bother trying to fix those holes with solder, because once that sits on a hot cooking surface, the solder will literally just melt right off. Oh, and here's a quick pro tip for the campfire cooks out there. Coat the outside of your pot with cheap vegetable oil before you brew. Do that, and the black campfire soot will just wipe right off when you're done. What's great is how incredibly easy it is to scale this whole process, whether you're out in the woods or just standing in your kitchen. The classic campfire batch uses about 3 handfuls, which is roughly 1 3/4 to 2 cups of medium roast grounds. But if you're just making a home kitchen batch, you can simply use a 1/4 cup of grounds for every 1 quart of warm water. Notice how we specify medium roast here. A coarse grind actually requires a longer boiling time, so a medium roast is really your sweet spot for this particular method. All right, let's jump into section 2, the rolling boil. This is where the real brewing magic happens. The setup is super straightforward, but it definitely requires your full attention. Step 1, you're gonna start with warm water filled right up to the bottom of the spout. Once that water is nice and warm, step 2, add in your grounds. Now step 3 is the most important part. You've gotta watch it patiently, like a pointer bird dog. If you turn your back on old Bertha, the stove, for even a second, I guarantee that pot is gonna boil over and make a massive, terrible mess. And that brings us to this crucial concept known as rolling over. Now, we aren't talking about some gentle simmer here, no bubble bubble, perk perk kind of stuff. We need a vigorous churning boil. This active physical churning is exactly the chemical reaction that breaks down the acid and strips all that harsh bitterness right out of those coffee grounds. Once you get that vigorous churn going, you'll want to reduce the heat just a tiny bit so it doesn't boil over, and then let the pot roll over for exactly 4 minutes. Yep, 4 minutes is the absolute magic number to break everything down perfectly without scorching or burning your coffee. So what's the actual result of that 4-minute churning boil? Well, as our source so colorfully explains, you get a brew that is smoother than a Safeway chicken. The old joke is that those grocery store chickens were plucked so perfectly they shone like a silver dollar in a goat's butt. But hey, tasteful humor aside, the main takeaway here is that this technique guarantees a flawlessly smooth texture that you are simply never going to get from a standard drip machine. Okay, moving right along to section 3, the cold water secret. This is all about successfully settling those grounds. Now, looking at this whole process, you're probably asking yourself a very obvious question. With all those loose grounds actively churning around inside the pot, how on earth do you pour a cup without having to basically chew your coffee? Well, you can just go ahead and forget all those old myths and tall tales. People will try to tell you that you need to crack eggshells into the pot or even drop a heavy iron horseshoe into the water to make the grounds sink. Crazy, right? Authentic cowboy coffee actually relies on a much simpler, highly effective scientific trick to clear the brew. Here is the secret, broken down into 3 easy steps. First, remove the pot from the heat and let it rest for exactly 2 minutes. Second, grab a cup of cold water and pour it right down the spout, and then splash a little around the interior edges of the pot. The sudden temperature difference from that cold water rapidly forces all the floating grounds straight to the bottom. Finally, if any stray grounds are stubbornly stuck near the top of the spout, just wipe them away with a wet paper towel. The result? Pure magic. You're left with a perfectly clear, sediment-free pour. Now, what if you make a huge batch and end up with leftovers? Whatever you do, do not pour it out. Just tip the pot and pour that clear coffee straight into a mason jar. When you get near the bottom where the sludgy dregs are, just run it through a basic paper coffee filter or a small metal strainer. Seal that jar up nice and tight, and it'll keep perfectly in your icebox for 4 to 5 days. You can easily reheat it later in the week using the microwave or on the stove in a sauce pot, and honestly, it'll taste just as good as day one. Finally, let's explore the ultimate purpose behind this entire tradition with Section 4, Campfire Camaraderie, and Fueling the Community. Cowboy coffee is literally the heartbeat of the camp. Historically speaking, it's the very first thing set up on the chuck wagon in the early morning and the very last thing packed away at night. It serves as this ultimate communal gathering point. I mean, just imagine a freezing morning where cowboys just spent an hour chopping solid ice out of a water barrel. That hot, perfectly smooth cup of coffee is exactly what physically thaws them out, gets the morning conversation flowing, and helps build those lasting friendships right around the fire. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Now that you know the required gear, the golden ratios, the secret of the rolling boil, and that cold water trick, are you ready to skip that $20 latte line tomorrow? Are you ready to bring a little bit of this incredibly smooth, reliable, and historic cowboy tradition right into your very own kitchen? Grab a pot, grab some grounds, and try it out for yourself. You might just be surprised.